Have you ever ordered something really specific at a restaurant, and what they bring you is just completely wrong? It's so frustrating, right? But what if I told you that in that simple, annoying moment, there's actually a ton of legal drama? We're going to unpack a fascinating story about a steak, a chef, and a broken promise that actually tells us a lot about how the law works in our everyday lives.
So get this. This is what the chef, Lorraine, said about our customer Kenny. He ordered a well-done steak, and let's just say she had some very strong opinions about that. This one quote, this single passionate belief, is right at the heart of this entire mess.
Look, Chef Lorraine can believe whatever she wants about cooking, but when there's a dispute, personal philosophy kind of has to take a back seat. The real question here is a legal one. Whose side is the law on? That's what we're about to figure out.
All right, let's set the scene. Section 1, the steak standoff. Before we can even start talking about the law, we got to get our facts straight. What exactly went down that night?
Okay, so here's the play-by-play. Kenny orders a well-done steak. The waiter takes the order, no problem. Then the kitchen sends out a steak that's super red inside, and Kenny, seeing this, refuses to pay and just leaves. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, as you're about to see, from a legal perspective, every single one of these steps is a huge deal.
So that brings us to Section 2, where we ask, was there a contract on the menu? We're shifting from just the story to the actual legal stuff. Was this just a dinner order that went sideways, or did something way more significant actually happen here?
This is the first big question we have to tackle. I mean, you probably don't think of ordering dinner as making a deal, but you know what? In the eyes of the law, that's very often exactly what's happening. So let's see if Kenny's order actually counts as a real legal deal.
Okay, so first things first. For any kind of contract, you need what's called an offer. It's a specific proposal. So when Kenny said, "I'll have a well-done steak," he wasn't just telling the waiter what he was hungry for. Legally speaking, he was making a formal offer.
But an offer is only half of the puzzle, right? You also need acceptance. And when the waiter took Kenny's order, probably scribbled it on a notepad without saying a word against it, the restaurant was clearly and totally agreeing to Kenny's very specific terms.
And there you have it. An offer plus an acceptance equals a contract. A legally binding agreement was created in that exact moment. The restaurant promised to deliver a well-done steak, and in return, Kenny promised to pay for it. It's a deal. So, it's official. We have a contract, and that leads us right into Section 3, the deal's key ingredient. Because it's not enough to know a deal was made, now we have to look at the specifics of that deal. And this is where a really, really important legal idea comes into play. The person who makes the offer, the law calls them the offerer, so in this case that's Kenny, they're the one who gets to set the conditions. And his condition wasn't just a steak, it was, and this is the key, a well-done steak. That little detail changes everything.
And here it is, the whole problem laid out plain as day. On one side, you have Kenny's offer, a well-done steak. On the other side, you have what the restaurant actually delivered, a very red steak. They just don't match. It doesn't matter what the chef's culinary philosophy is. That doesn't change the terms of the deal.
Okay, so we've got a contract, and we've got a pretty clear mismatch between what was promised and what showed up. So what does the law call it when a deal goes this wrong? That brings us to Section 4, when a promise is broken.
It has a name, and it's called a breach of contract. Put simply, it just means one side broke their promise. And in this case, this wasn't just some tiny error. It was what lawyers would call a material breach. It goes right to the very heart of the agreement. A red steak isn't just a slightly different version of a well-done steak. It's a completely different thing.
So let's put it all together now. Kenny made an offer to pay for a very specific product, a well-done steak. The restaurant accepted that offer, but then delivered a red one. Based on everything we've just talked about, who do you think failed to hold up their end of the bargain? And now, we've arrived at the grand finale. Section 5, the final verdict. It is time to answer the one question that kicked this whole thing off. Can our very angry Chef Lorraine actually sue Kenny for walking out without paying? This is the bottom line, isn't it? We've looked at the offer, the acceptance, the specific terms, and the fact that the contract was broken. So does Lorraine actually have a legal case against Kenny for the unpaid bill?
The answer is a clear, simple no. Absolutely not. Kenny isn't the one at fault here. Legally, the blame lies squarely with the restaurant.
So here's the final legal breakdown of why Kenny is totally in the clear. First, yes, a valid contract existed. But second, the restaurant broke that contract in a major way by not providing the steak cooked to the specific terms Kenny set out. They broke their side of the deal first. Kenny's duty to pay was entirely dependent on the restaurant fulfilling its promise. Since they didn't, he was well within his rights to refuse the meal and not pay a dime.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. Buying a coffee, tapping your card to get on the bus, ordering a steak, these are all tiny little contracts. The case of the well-done steak just goes to show you that those little details really do matter, and these basic legal ideas are working all around us all the time. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What agreements will you make today?